We are so excited to be here with you today. Our goal is to make every single one of you understand the power you have inside of you. So I want to ask you a question. How many of you have ever been told that your idea is no good, fun, that it won't work? Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. The world that we live in is unfortunately filled with a lot of negativity and people trying to tell you like, oh no, go in a different direction. But there's only one person that you have to listen to, and that's you. And you need to surround yourself with people who believe in you, people who lift you up, people who make you feel powerful. Right? And so we're all here in this room, in this community, to make you feel powerful. And I want to tell you, this woman, when I talked to her for the first time, she made me feel powerful. She is a powerhouse. Okay? So this is a firehouse chat, apparently not just a fireside chat. So, Dawn, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about yourself and help everyone get to know you a little bit.
Okay, well, I was a Microsoftie too in the early days, 84 to 98. I left home when I was 18 with $200 and 2 suitcases and moved to Michigan because I wanted to go to school out of state and I couldn't afford it. So I worked for a year, got involved in the computer industry at the very early stages, and never ended up going to college. But I worked my way through many different jobs, taught myself to program, and at one point in 84, saw this little company called Microsoft and thought, okay, they do software, I know software, I don't have an education, that's probably my best bet of getting a job. And sent in a resume on Thursday, and they ran an ad on Sunday that described me. They called me on Monday, I interviewed on Wednesday and got hired and was here for 14 years. And I tell you that because I didn't have any of the credentials that people would expect me to have. But I knew that I knew what I knew. And I knew software and that I had the ability to learn new things. And so coming to a place that did software, even though it was a different kind of software, I was working on mini computers at the time, I had confidence in myself that I could learn what I needed to be successful here and was able to do that. And when I left Microsoft, I was the general manager of consumer products, and I'd also been a general manager of database and development tools. And so I was in a pretty senior position. So that was a great thing.
It's super impressive because so many people I know probably come up and talk to you. A lot of people come up and talk to me and they're like, oh my gosh, so what's your background in computer technology? Like, did you go to school for that? And because, do I have to go back to school if I want to get into technology? And I'm like, no. Not at all, right? So I am sure that there have been many times in your life that people have said, no, you can't do that. You're not going to be able to be successful. But I'm pretty sure that when you guys were thinking about starting the Seattle Storm here in Seattle, you probably got a lot of that too.
Oh, we definitely did. We didn't start the Storm. The Storm was originally a co-owned team with the NBA. So there was the Sonics and the Storm, and they were co-owned. In a couple years before we bought the team, the league decided that you could have independent teams. And when the Sonics and Storm were purchased by the out-of-state ownership group, they made it clear that they were going to move the teams to Oklahoma City. This is another case of where we were pretty clear. So I have 2 partners, by the way, 2 women partners. So it's a women-owned organization. One of them also an ex-Microsoftie, Lisa Bremmel. You probably have heard of her. So anyway, we managed to convince them to let us buy the Storm to keep them in Seattle because we were pretty sure that they really didn't care about the Storm. It was about the men's team. And when they moved it to Oklahoma City, they would probably just close the team down. We were all 3 season ticket holders. We loved the Storm. We wanted to just keep them alive and vibrant in Seattle. So in 2008, we were able to purchase the team. And you may or may not remember 2008, but it was a pretty significant year. First, we had a joint operating agreement with the Sonics. In the middle of our first season, none of of us having any experience in running a sports team, the Sonics moved to Oklahoma City, and we had a joint operating agreement with them for them to run our back office. So all of a sudden, our back office disappeared in the middle of our first season. And our CEO, the one person who knew what she was doing, was pregnant and had a baby that year too, during the season. So we were, kind of flying a little bit blind. And 2008, the significance of that year is that was the world economy crash. So where we had originally thought we had back office support, where originally we thought we had, customers, what happened is, sports is an entertainment business, right? It's an optional thing to spend money on. And so we lost season ticket holders, we lost sponsors, we basically lost about half of the revenue that we thought we were going to have. And our losses were about 3 times what we had predicted them to be. So at the end of the season, we looked around the table at each other and said, well, what are we going to do? The league was pressuring teams at that time to cut losses. So you can cut losses in a couple ways, right? You can cut your staff, you can cut your expenses, you can not lose money if you don't spend anything and if you close a business down, right? But we took the opposite approach. We decided to double down. We thought we had an incredible product here and we needed to make sure that it stayed visible. And so we invested in marketing and we invested in staff. And with pressure on doing that. But it turned out that was really the right thing to do because we stayed visible. And that was one of the key things is staying visible. And we're also family friendly in terms of cost. So even though we didn't have as many fans coming and we didn't have as many sponsors, we were still accessible to people. And I think that's one of the core things that we believe about our business, that's one of our sweet spots. So one of the things is knowing your market, right? That was our market. And the other thing is knowing your consumers. And so knowing our consumers were families primarily, and people that were cost sensitive, we made the decision also not to raise prices. So we just invested more and really tried to build the business. So another thing that we did this year that was, again, counterintuitive somewhat, there's a new Olympic sport this year called 3x3. So normally basketball is played with 5 players on the court at one time on each team. 3x3 is 3 players on the court, and it's a half-court game. It's a little bit different game, but it's still basketball. And in the WNBA, there's 144 players. There's 12 teams. We think that that's not enough women that have a professional opportunity to play basketball. And here was a whole new sport that was being validated by the Olympics that really there was virtually no support for in the United States. The United States Olympic team didn't have a team yet. So we said, you know what? We are going to get league approval, but then we're going to create the first professional women's 3x3 team. And they competed in competition this year in different tournaments, and we ended up winning the overall prize. And 2 of our players have been invited to try out for the U.S. Olympic team. So we did exactly what we were hoping we would do.
So in a lot of ways, it's about reframing the problem, bucking the trend, sticking with your gut, and sticking with your principles that, Seattle needs a team, and it's about family, and it's about investing when everybody else is running the other way. Right? Yeah. I mean, I've been in situations at Microsoft like that as well. I was running our Windows client business at one point, and Windows was everything, and yet in the commercial space with our business customers, there wasn't actually a lot of value in it. Back in the days of Windows Vista, I don't know if any of you remember that, and that happened to be when I was running the business, and we had to reframe, right? We had to reframe for our customers. The value proposition wasn't about the user experience and the client itself. It was actually about the manageability and the security around it, right? And reframing the problem, reframing the situation. And so when you're facing a challenge, the key is to step back and think about, how do you reframe this? What are your principles? And how do you want to drive that forward with success?
Absolutely. Again, just in sports, just like it is in tech, it's hard to get people to invest in women, right? And so as we are, our customers are people that come to the games, but also sponsors that support us. And so what we've done is we've gone from talking about to the sponsors, from talking about how many eyeballs are in the seats to talking about this is an investment in the community. This is an investment in women. This is an investment in women's opportunities. And we will support you and your businesses to show those kind of opportunities. And you you can support us by becoming a sponsor. And it's totally changed the game for us because it's not about basketball. It's about community. And once we understood that that was the message that we were supposed to be telling people, that people really resonated with, it turned our business around. So that's again, knowing the customer and knowing what your product is, that it's really about understanding what they want and what they need, and they'll support you.
But of course, it's not always easy.
No.
And not always successful, right?
Right.
And as a matter of fact, you're being successful when 30% of the things you try work, right?
That's right.
And so it's not about beating yourself up when things don't work, and it's not about closing the doors when they don't work. It's about looking at what didn't work and figuring out how to make it work, right?
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things I love about sports and that I like to tell particularly women when I'm talking is that, the best baseball player in the world hits the ball 30% of the time. The best. Those are the guys that are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to play the sport. So that's one of the things about taking risk, right? Is that you're going to be a great player if you make it 30% of the time. You're going to be a great entrepreneur if 30% of your ideas are actually fruitful. And the real key is to know when it's a good idea and you need to change your tact, or when it's time to walk away and learn from that lesson and then pick up something new. And those are the real keys to figuring out when the business is going to be successful versus when you might want to take what you've learned or take the core of what you did and apply it to something new.
Right, because real success in whatever you're doing isn't necessarily the outcome of the business itself, although that helps, right? Real success is believing in yourself and knowing that you're resilient, that you can drive that you have that vision, you have that ambition, and you can make it happen. That's real success. And sometimes what also helps is raising money, right? Raising capital, making sure that you're funded. And the other disappointing thing about the world we live in today is that it is not equal. You heard Patty talk about it's not equal. And women don't have the same access to funding as men. And I think that women have a harder time asking for the funding, right? It is true that women-owned businesses on average get about $935,000 worth of investment, whereas a male-owned business of that equivalent size would get about 2.1 million. So you're not asking for enough, you're not expecting enough, you have to think bigger, you have to go bigger. And when you don't find it in one place, just keep working at it, reframe the problem, right? Did you have that kind of issue with the storm? That people didn't want to invest?
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Again, you take the core of what's good. See, I know if I can get somebody to a storm game that they're going to love the environment and that they'll come back. And so when people like to say that there's no professional basketball in Seattle anymore. That's absolutely not true. And we do know that if we can get somebody to experience what we're giving, that they will really love it and they'll come back. And so, but there's a lot of people that say it's not good enough. There's a lot of people that say it's not really sport. There's a lot of trolls that like to say a high school boys team could beat our team. I'd love to see that happen. But you hear that all the time. You hear that negative stuff all the time. And you really do have to believe in the core of what you're providing as a product, that it's good. And that, yeah, you trim around the edges. You figure out what's working, what's not working. But there's always going to be people that tell you can't do it. There's always going to be people that troll you. And I would say don't listen to them. Don't read the troll. That's one of my favorite things is to ignore all of the comments on any given article. But you'll hear that all the time. And especially being a woman in tech, it's the same thing. It's that you're not good enough or that you don't belong in this room, as we heard earlier today. Well, you do belong in the room. Just do it. That's the main thing. Don't talk yourself out of it. Talk yourself into it.
And one of the biggest ways to do that is to get your investors to create that experience where they forget what they're talking about as a woman-owned business, and they just experience the value, right? Do you have an example of that?
Right. There's a local company. I don't know if you've heard of them. Riveter. It's a woman's targeted workspace. It's kind of like WeWork, only a lot more successful. And it was started by a woman. And she believed that most of the co-workspaces were very male-dominated. You know, they had the foosball tables and all that kind of stuff. And so she wanted a place that women could co-work and support each other, but make it really women-friendly. So in her places, there's like a yoga room that you can use. But the key thing is she started 3 years ago. She's now in 6 different cities. She's gotten venture capital investment. And one of the things that she did was she decided that it wasn't just about the workspace. It was about the environment again. She was selling the community of Riveter. And so they have almost on a daily basis, they have great speakers and great events after the work hours so that you can get to know other people, you can get connected to other women. She reframed what that was, and she's been incredibly successful in doing it. So again, it's about figuring out what's different about what I have to offer, who is my customer, and then making sure that you're really satisfying them with what you're giving them.
Absolutely. And you heard Sarah talk a little bit earlier about the tribute. It's the same thing. Tribute is an opportunity to experience community. It's an opportunity to experience empowerment and to experience mentorship in a whole new way. And so I would encourage you to do that because Sarah's putting that out there for all of you as a way for you to create that experience and then get others in and really grow her footprint and her company as well. So, really great mentorship and community sharing starts with all of us. And that's really why we're here, right? We're here in this room to build that community, to build that group of supporters, that group of people that will help you when things don't look great and encourage you when things look great and when things are being successful and help you reframe that challenge. So that's the time that you take here to get to know each other, to support each other. In this room, there is everything that you need to build your company. All of the services and all of the products are here. So I would encourage you to really understand that, to take a look at the application that's in the Women in Cloud application. It has all of those services in it. And you can use those. It's an opportunity for you to support your peers, to support this community, and to pay it forward. So with that, I really wanted to, talk a little bit about how do you pay it forward, Don?
Well, you could do it in multiple ways, but one of the ways that the Storm is going to pay it forward today is that everyone here is getting a free ticket to our opening game on May 15th at Unova. Because I know if you see our product, if you experience our product, you're going to love it.
And buy a season ticket.
Yeah, maybe that too. But anyway, you'll get a push alert through the Women in Cloud app, and then you'll get an email follow-up with a link that you can use to get your free ticket. And we're also going to try to organize a group night for Women in Cloud attendees for that.
All right, that's awesome. So I encourage all of you to pay it forward today. Get to know everybody in this room. Get to know all of the apps and the solutions and the products that people have available for you today. Network, really take advantage of this day and the time that you're investing in it here today, and come together so that we are super powerful force of Women in the Cloud community.
Be intentional about supporting women.
Awesome.
Be intentional about finding women businesses to support. Be intentional about using, when you have an opportunity to support or take advantage of a woman's business, do that. Because that's how we'll help build each other's success.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.